Today, I'm thrilled to have Jessie Hughes from AI image generation platform Leonardo.ai. This was a fascinating discussion about the intersection of generative AI and the creative industries. See, Jessie's the senior creative technologist and artist in residence at Leonardo.ai and brings a decade of experience in this space. She spends a lot of time educating creatives around the world on how to get the best possible output from their model, including product shots, ad creative, photo shoots, and pretty much any application of images a growth hacker would need. Now, let's get started. Welcome to Using AI at Work. I'm your host, Chris Daigle. Each week, we'll be learning how today's business owners, entrepreneurs, and ambitious professionals are getting more done with smart use of tomorrow's tech. Let's get started. Hey everybody, I'm excited to invite Jessie Hughes from Leonardo.ai to the podcast today, and we're going to talk about something that's been on my mind for a very long time. Jessie, before we get started, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
For sure. Hey Chris, my name is Jessie Hughes. I'm the senior creative technologist at Leonardo.ai. I'm also very lucky to be an artist in residence there. So I have, a 10-year career in the creative industries. I've been working across that space of emerging technology and how that kind of intersects with like the arts and the creative industries for a long time. And then last year, I think as we're all aware, generative AI really had its moment. It raised a lot of attention. And it was this kind of incredible moment as a creative where I went, oh my gosh, my practice has now just expanded tenfold. And I just couldn't stop exploring how my practice could now just expand in every vertical that I hadn't even considered before. And so that was what kind of drew me to Leonardo in the first place. So for those who don't know, Leonardo.ai is an incredible generative AI creative toolkit for content creation. What I would say the reason I really enjoyed Leo was it was everything all in one place. Back when I was, learning and trying all these different things, you would have to go to one platform to like make an image, another platform to upscale the image and make it like high quality. And then you have to go to another platform to add motion. You have to go to another platform. So it was just, it was my subscriptions, guys. I'm paying for Netflix, paying for Spotify. Like I can't have all these subscriptions. So that's kind of where I ended up finding Leonardo. And the platform has grown just so much of a community within such a short time period. So Leo has the third largest Discord community in the world. So that's massive. A group of people who are all here to be like training and learning off each other. And in 18 months, we have grown to have over 15 million users. Like that is
what?
That is incredible, right?
It's actually
congratulations. Thank you. I think we're currently Australia's fastest growing SaaS, which is absolutely insane.
Wow.
So it started at like I think it was like Christmas 2022. So it was co-founded by these creators our founders that used to run a game studio. And I think this is a really important piece of the whole narrative because anyone who works in games knows the process. It takes a significant amount of time and money to make all of these assets, which a lot of the time, it's an additional texture for, a sword or something like that. It's not really the center of the story and the narrative where you need to be spending your time. And so our co-founder JJ, he just saw this opportunity for how we could be expediting that process in a way that allows creatives to therefore then focus their time and energy where it should be on expanding these worlds and expanding this creative process. That was kind of like the beginning point, and it has just not stopped since then, which is incredibly exciting. But if like everyone's aware, like the AI space today is incredibly saturated, and yet Leonardo time and time again has sat among those top standout Gen AI platforms, and I think it's just a real testament to the entire tech team for building a product that is technically excellent, like the actual capabilities are excellent, but the user interface is incredibly user-friendly. So I teach like AI to everybody. I mean, like from school kids to uni people to like real old adults. And I had a 67-year-old woman in one of my classes the other day who has, she's a traditional artist. she came to the class, tagged me on the, a few hours later, and she had trained a model on her body of art work to create more work. And this is a 67-year-old woman. And she, but it was just like, it just is so easy. And I think that's what's beautiful about like these tools. They, the term like democratizing creativity comes up a lot when you talk about AI. But I think it is such a beautiful opportunity in this space. People get upset that a 16-year-old can do what took me a 3-year design degree to do. But I don't feel that at all. That competitor of when Canva came along, right? And it was like, I have a 3-year design degree and someone can go jump on Canva and make an asset. Like, to me, that's not a threat, because if somebody wants like a specific, like a top tier designer, they're going to find the designer who has that distinct style or aesthetic. Whereas for a small business, which I know is a lot of our listeners right now, for a small business or a founder, like the fact that you can use these resources so easily is incredible. And so I think that's where Leo has such a massive opportunity for, this space of business owners and creatives, and creatives. Yeah. So you've got this, parallel of, you can either have easy access and easy learning of skills for people who are just getting into the space, or you can have people who are experts at that craft, who understand composition and artistry and story and all these absolutely beautiful elements, who can then expand across all these other verticals. So if you are, say, traditionally a photographer, you can now expand your storytelling into illustration, 3D graphics, like all of these other spaces. And likewise, if you're an illustrator, you can now have incredible photography and build like this expansive. So to me, I find it so exciting as a creative. I'm like, oh my gosh, what else can I do?
Nice. Yeah, we haven't done a ton of image generation prior to our exposure to Leonardo, but honestly, now that we've gotten Leonardo, it is so easy to use, and not that competitors are out there and that sort of thing. However, personal experience, DALL-E got the job done. It was okay, right? But it was obviously, and I'm not here to talk bad about anybody, but just my personal experience. It was obviously, a generative effort. It wasn't. It didn't look like right. And Midjourney, cool stuff, but dude, like, that's the only Discord server I've ever been in before, and it's just compared to other generative AI tools. It was like, wait a minute, everybody else is making it easy. Why are you guys making it so hard? And then Leo comes along, and honestly, it's been the easiest of the tools that we've used. So that was pretty refreshing as well. So you mentioned a couple things. The growth has been phenomenal. Yeah. Why?
I think it's just what you said. It's easy. Like, it's easy. Like, the accessibility is truly there by design. Like, the team was, and it's something that we're actually currently working on making it even easier, because we are at this kind of like crossroad between, do you give people like complete creative control, which is our end goal. It's one of our like pillar values at Leo is creative control. So by that, I mean the ability to literally like go in and edit like specific, in the same way like you have, high-end creative software, like, I don't know, whatever, Photoshop or whatever, like detailed, like we have the capabilities of the tools with that within Leo. But then we also want to cater for the people who are coming in for the first time. This is their first time doing image gen. How do we make that like a seamless experience? And so we're currently working on, some really exciting things, which are launching quite soon, on how we can be even easier. But I think there was probably that. And then the other element of the images are fantastic. And that is the thing. It's just like you said with your experience with DALL-E, like we can't, Gen AI will not break through to the mainstream if the images are subpar. And I think that is something that's very important, is that I use the word indiscernible when I give my lectures. And it's this idea of like, AI works in a commercial context if the imagery feels indiscernible, as in an audience isn't looking at that and saying, oh, that's an AI. And the other thing is, like, audiences are incredibly savvy. They're also incredibly on edge about trying to like identify these kind of things. So it's a sense of like, well, what instance are you using it in? Like, what example is this, like, use case is this being used in? Is it appropriate? Like where can you, do multi-layered stuff almost? Like, if, like, what is the use case and how do you want to build upon that? is what I think is really relevant. Like I have a friend she's a founder, she's, building her business, and she wanted this beautiful like stock photography. They were going to charge $500 per photograph for her.
Yeah,
right?
it's ridiculous.
And how in the world, like honestly, can a startup or the general public, like that is not an affordable, it's just not affordable. And beyond that, it's not photography that is the specific stuff that she wants for her brand.
She had to settle.
Yeah, and it was a sense of like, well, now we have the capability where we can, define the models, define the scene, define the color tone, define the grade, like the new tools that we're rolling out. We even have the ability for like style. So if she has, say, a brand guideline of what her photography style is, we can, go in and make sure that all of her images reflect that same style, which is a really, really helpful commercial tool for people who are trying to build their own stuff, which is great. And I'm first and foremost an artist, so it's like I completely respect and love the photography.
Yes.
I love creative processes. Like, oh my God, there's nothing that makes me happier on this earth than creative collaboration. But that process is is expensive, and it is time consuming. And I think there is a difference between a fashion brand having this incredible photo shoot and, being cutting edge and the, beauty of possibility versus a small business owner who needs to have some photography of a coffee cup because, they're rolling out a new thing. So it's just about the use cases.
So I've got an odd question. And this is based on a quote from a futurist named Buckminster Fuller, and it's stuck with me my whole life since I've heard it. And that quote was, "You don't win by competing in the existing paradigm. You create a new paradigm that makes the old one obsolete." Right? Mm-hmm. And it sounds like you guys aren't necessarily in the same category as the other generative AI image tools that are out there. It sounds like how do you guys see yourselves in the marketplace? Do you see it as Leonardo is in its own category?
I mean, I do. Yeah. It's why I work for them. Yeah. I think when I came on board with Leonardo, I genuinely felt it was a step. To me, it was like, I see this being the new kind of Adobe in the sense of like this content suite. And I think that's what's very, very special and distinct about Leonardo is it is a content suite. We're constantly building out features and models and the kind of meetings that we have like this, it's such a cross industry, experience. Like one day having meetings with game studios, the other day I'm having advertising, then I'm doing marketing, then I'm over talking to Hollywood and having film meetings. And it's just like, the reality is every single industry in the world is looking at this right now. The other thing that I didn't mention earlier was Leonardo operates, so we have users from over 189 different countries. We're in every single continent in the world, our user base. And so this is a very distinct difference in the sense that like, this is not just something that's happening in the States or Australia or Silicon Valley. This is something like a lot of our users come from like South America and like, just everywhere around the world. And we get these awesome submissions from artists and creatives and just verticals that we also have never even thought of. And then users come in and say, hey, we've got this use case. And immediately that goes to our team of being like, oh my God, we didn't think about this use case. Like, how do we make this, practical? And so we really are in a phase of taking on as much, we want to know what people need and want so that we can, specialize that. And you've got teams who are doing like specialized, like refined models. So for example, I saw one today and it's like, I don't know, like graphic novels. So there's a specific model that's like perfectly trained for graphic novels. And there's another one that's perfectly trained for like different types of cameras and even like different lenses. Nice. We're at this point. Like one of my favorite, if anyone's going on having a play, like one of my favorite ones is like unprocessed film. Like we have all these different beautiful things like our photo reel. We have photo reel. So that's like a really high quality stuff. And you can do everything from like cinematic. So if you're trying to like create almost like cinema worthy scenes or styles all the way through to stock photography where we have this model where you're able to, if you want that more, less creative, like sticky thing if you're trying to do clothing or something, I don't know. So, that's
got me excited about about creating images. This is awesome.
Yeah, well, I mean, and like I find it so easy to get excited about because I have a bachelor in fine arts, but I also have a degree in screenwriting, and I find this hilarious because I studied screenwriting so that I could articulate with words what I wanted to like share with the world and what I was seeing and feeling, and now I like literally use words in prompting to create these images and these words that I can share with people. And I think like even that basic example of pitching, like if you're using the screenwriting context, like nobody wants to read a 30-page script, by the way. It sucks. You put your heart and soul into it. Nobody's going to read it unless they get a compelling pitch deck or a treatment. And so being able to like, I can visualize in the correct tone, like what my story is about. And that's just so much more compelling when you go to in the context of the real world. You have to convince the producers. You have to convince, like, I think anybody who understands their niche field understands how many layers are involved with the steps, and having convincing and compelling imagery to support that. If even something simple like pitch decks as a founder, like you're going to be more compelling if your imagery is. We're just visual people. So yeah, I get pretty excited by the possibilities of that, but through to like the literal like commercially viable use cases of I've had meetings with directors who have visualized their entire production before they have gone to set. And like when you're talking about a film production, like that is millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars. So if you can spend, I don't know, $100,000, but like a month or two beforehand, like, stretching it out, that's incredible to me in terms of like it's a shifting workflow. And so that's the other thing that I would say, instead of like, your great reference you're saying about changing the paradigm, like for me, it's just a shifting in workflows. Like it's not, doesn't have to necessarily replace stuff like it, but I love it. It can change how I go about approaching my creative workflow. So for me, I think it's absolutely exciting, and there's so much cool stuff like every single week. I mean, you have an AI podcast, you understand this, but like every single week, there's phenomenal stuff happening in the AI world, and like to see it internally as well, it's just so cool. We're I think next week we're launching character consistency to the rest of the populace. I've been able to play with it behind the scenes, but this character consistency for me is going to be the game changer, because I can now have consistent character, and I mean perfect, Chris, consistent character.
I'm ready.
Across all of my resources. It's been insane. I was doing like a fake marketing campaign last week, and just this to me, I just couldn't. It's that aha moment, like, and I'm sure you'll have it if you go in and play with these tools, where you sit there and you're like, this is not real, like how is this happening? And I will sit, go to my parents' place and be like, I made this week, and they don't know what I'm saying when they say that I made this. They're like, what do you like? It doesn't make sense to them. I'm like, I made this. They're like, what do you mean? Like, you didn't do a photo shoot in New York this week. I'm like, well, I did. Well, yeah. So that's been like quite a fun process of the onboarding and like upskilling. That's a big part of my just like a value that I have, is bringing others along in the process and making sure like people are excited by these tools, because it is exciting. And I think until you play with Gen tools, I think there can be a bit of a misconception that you just like type in, make a picture, and it's that like, oh my God, that's not quite it. Like, I spent hours refining and making sure everything's correct and correct. Like it's just a different process. It's a different creative process. But the outcomes can be spectacular.
Yeah. You made a comment, and I don't think if you really realize the impact of it, but there's in the world, there's intimidation around the tools. If people haven't had that aha moment that you mentioned, once you have the aha moment, you realize, oh, like I'm in control here. It's not the machine. But you mentioned that it's not really like a paradigm shift. There's nothing to be afraid of. It's just a workflow shift.
Yeah.
And that was, I hadn't heard it put that way, but like, guys, there's nothing to worry about. We're just doing things a little differently. Right. So that's a very great way of looking at it. So here's my deal. I wouldn't consider myself a creative.
Yeah.
I am left brain like crazy and like, however, it's not that I wouldn't want to leverage creativity in the operation of my business, the portrayal of my messages, my narrative in the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't been something that was easy for me. But my experiences using Leonardo have been that it is, I'm having the aha moment. Let's put it that way. But
Epic.
as a business owner, prior to this conversation, honestly, you've changed my opinion on some things. But prior to this conversation, I was like, oh yeah, it's cool. Kind of like the music stuff. Yeah, it's cool. But like, how is that gonna influence my prospects? But the way that you put it, like instantly I was like, oh yeah, and all of my pitch decks and all of my presentations and all, like every place that I'm using any type of imagery, duh. So it wasn't the barrier to introduce creativity into my business wasn't as hard as I thought it was. So thank you for inadvertently bringing me to that.
Anyone who runs a business, story is vital to how audiences engage with you. Story and brand, and whether you want it, it's with people, I think people think it's like the fluffy stuff on top, and I'm like, it's literally how you talk to your users, like or audience. It's your entire, it's the outfit that you're wearing, like it's vital. So I think the fact that these and the other thing that I would say is previously you wouldn't have invested in that content because it would have been
correct.
It would have been incredibly expensive and just not. It wouldn't be a business need for you, immediate business need. Whereas now, I'm sure you could say, yeah, you know what, I am going to spend 2 days building out, whatever it is that I need, and instantly your business looks sexier, it looks better, it looks like it has more personality. And people are going to connect with you significantly more. And this can be everything from, I haven't really gone into all the graphic stuff, but like we can easily make graphic resources for you. So if you were having like expanding your logo or putting your logo across things, or if you had, oh God, I get carried away. Like honestly, it is endless with these possibilities. But I think in your case, just being able to make resources that are more compelling with a distinct aesthetic, and that is the difference, the business point that I want to get to. Because obviously, if you're going to go make a suite of images that have no consistency and no cohesion, then it's just going to be images. Whereas, whereas if you think about it strategically from like a brand or a messaging standpoint, it's like what imagery is actually going to be convincing, compelling to audiences, and what is, say, the correct style. Like, I think when you go through that process, like you're just going to be able to tell stories better to your audience, and therefore they're going to engage better. And people, and like you can do, like, I mean, bloody Google have done like a million studies. It's like with advertising and stuff. It's like if you have the same thing that you're advertising, but across like 3 different images, but it's the same thing. It's like the same thing shot in a few different ways. People engage more. I don't know why. We just do. Maybe it feels more realistic. But like these little, almost like psychology tricks that people use in marketing or whatever, like that. It's just the content creation is so much easier now that we can make it a priority at a really, really, really accessible entry point with a not steep learning curve. Because that was the problem before last year. Like last year, I think there was a bit of a learning curve. Whereas now you jump on the platform and it's like, okay, what are we making today? Like, let's go. Which I think is quite special. The other thing that I would add, which I haven't really got into because we're talking about small businesses, but we had last week I announced the launch of Teams. Now, this is our enterprise ready production suite for Teams, and by that I mean like in the same way like Figma has collaborative tooling, and like the Google suite does collaborative stuff. We realized this was a point if we wanted to be this Gen AI superpower that I think we're on the trajectory to be. How do we have an enterprise suite that everybody can use? And so if we say you and I are in a business, Chris, and I might be leading the creative direction on something, all of a sudden you can use the same prompts, the same model that maybe I've gone in and trained myself for our business. And I've got my characters that I've built out. So say my job might be to design the brand or whatever. then you can go into Teams, have a folder and be like, oh yeah, I want that, but actually I need a water bottle in the shop because I'm selling a water bottle. I don't know, whatever. And you can go and just add it to that and it's all looking at the same stuff. It's like this collaborative working.
So does that look like the creative team could come in and almost create the style guide inside the images, and me as a marketer who didn't want to, didn't have the time or whatever to go back and forth with, I could go in there, I could use your standards with my prompt and get on brand images that I need on the fly.
100%.
Okay, now as a business person,
good.
that
sounds pretty good.
That makes sense. Yeah,
yeah, because that was something that we realized was just like the reality. Like people in businesses do not have all the time in the world, and when you're trying to learn new things, we realized that was a barrier. And so we're like, okay, how do we make this seamless and easy? And it's this sense of like you could dedicate, say, whoever runs your creative in your team or something, like they can be leading more of that defining what the aesthetic is and defining all that kind of stuff. And then you could go in and use those like presets or whatever they're talking about and jump in and make stuff. And so I think
very cool.
It is really awesome. And I think these like privately trained model stuff is really cool for enterprise and teams. And it's just we're just trying to make it like, how do we make this practical? Like that was everything that we're thinking of. Like we don't want to Sure, we definitely have like users who love, like we like have different categories for our different users. But say you've got the hobbyists, so people who are AI forward, people who are like early adopters and in there like playing, making cool stuff. Like awesome, we love those people. Like oh my god, obsessed. But as we grow as a business and scale, we really had to think about the market and think, okay, what business cases are we going to be able to solve, and who are these verticals? Like currently, I think we're really looking at the advertising industry, marketing industries, film, even stuff like architecture and like design, and all of these different categories who are really creative forward as well as something that we really can. Like we have a thing called Leonardo's Creator Program, which is I love it. I'm so excited by it. I'm stoked. That's where we like highlight top creators, and so it's this sense of like if you are a top creator
from your platform.
Yes. And so for people, so we want to be able to find, like, I know you're friends with Matt Wolf. And so like, we want to be able to like, find people who are doing incredible things with generative AI and be like, look, you got full access to the platform, like go and have tokens galore. Like
very cool. So Jessie, I need some advice.
Yeah.
We have creative talent that we work with and we like them, but I don't know that they're using the tools, right? I think that they're like a lot of people, they're waiting to see or whatever. They're afraid of the learning curve. What would you tell a business owner like me who had creatives that they didn't want to replace necessarily because those people, they understand our brand story and they've been with us, right? But we want them to start using or at least exploring, right, the tools. What advice would you give to somebody like me? I would tell them.
Yeah, no, I would encourage you to incentivize them to give them the time to learn these tools. Because I think if, in the reality of a busy workday, you're like, oh, I don't have time to learn. The executives need to dedicate time to whoever they want to execute. So let's say you're a creative team. So like, hey, here's 3 days. You have 3 whole days to just go in and like figure out this platform. Because I think the first 2 days you're going to get some pretty like whatever, like trying to learn. And by the third day, I think they're going to have their minds kind of really captured on the sense of, oh, I get why we are doing this. And that is the aha moment, because if someone doesn't have time to learn, they're not going to prioritize it ever. No one in whatever context.
Agreed.
But if I was an executive of a company, I would seriously invest in like 1 week of giving my employees time to really nail in learning how to leverage Gen AI, because the investment in the long term of a 1 week's pay versus in the long term of having a skilled workforce will be phenomenal. In the sense of instead of you having to like whatever your creative team pays.
That's great advice.
but I'm like this across every single business. Like the fact that we are not, so I teach at unis, like I mentioned, and I had a graduate class last year going into industry, having never touched AI. I felt sick to my core, Chris. I was sad. I felt sad that these kids were leaving university having not been trained in any capacity on how to leverage, ChatGPT or Leo or like any of these skills, because it is one of the most desired skills today. If you can do these skills. And so like, I think it's the smartest business move you will ever do is to upskill your team internally, because I think it's interesting that you said about this idea of replacing. I'm in no way encouraging replacing people. You need to train your people to be able to nail Gen AI, because the long-term benefits to your company will be expansive. So yeah, it's to me, it's a sense of expanding your business potential it's like a no-brainer to me. And it's not just like these, it's everything. I mean, like government, like schools, like it should be this next phase of like, I remember in primary school, we had, learning how to use a computer and like learning how to use the internet and like learning how to do these things. Like learning how to leverage AI is just a vital, like fourth industrial revolution skill.
True. And I do this podcast. I talk to smart people about generative AI all the time. I'm immersed in it on a daily basis, but I still have aha moments when I'm talking to people. And the way that you put that, that's an obvious no-brainer investment. So next time that I'm working with a client or advising a client, I'm going to say, look, a week, great. But if you can't do a week, a day, 2 days, something. But if your people if you give them the space to have the aha moment and like, I don't know, teach them, guide them or whatever, that individual, once expanded, the mind doesn't contract to its original state.
Yeah.
They won't forget that, oh, this tool is here. And once I figured it out, things got easier, things got faster. So that perspective of train them on Leo, train them on whatever your tools are, but that perspective of taking the time or allowing the time for your team to actually like saying, hey, this time is just for you to go goof around on the tools, figure it out. Those people will be huge. I mean, the data all shows it. Once somebody's upskilled on Gen AI, they're gone. You can't catch them. They're like unstoppable. So great advice again.
I think you'll also find that you'll have front runners in your business. So people who they get in and they just get it. And if those people can then be the ones who are leading your teams in what I was saying earlier about like setting up those early stage team stuff, it's then easier for everybody. So it's like it's just exciting. and the other long-term like money that you will save in the sense, like, I don't know what your business is, but say whatever, like that you're spending on licensing, stock footage or the other things, you're not settling. Because when you use stock, a lot of the time you're trying to be like, oh, this is kind of close to, or your alternative is to get like a photo shoot, which is probably going to cost about $20,000 as an entry point. And so like these things, like the long term, they add up. And it's what I like about like Leo is this creative control element of like, I can get specifically exactly what it is that I'm wanting.
Nice.
Like that is like, I was doing a photo shoot yesterday across like a mountain, and it was like to do a photo shoot like on a mountain to, advertise a jacket. It's just, I would love to, but again, it's who
tickets
is your
to
user.
Patagonia are expensive.
Oh my God, please. Like there's a difference. Like obviously if I'm like the marketing director of Kakming or something like that, like, probably it's beautiful to go and do those experiences. But I think for me, it's always thinking about what's the actual use case and who is the person. Like if it's a small marketing team, because you probably hire a 3D team to create assets anyway. And like 3D is incredibly hard. It's incredibly expensive. Whereas now we can do, like currently where we're at, we can do like 2D, 3D. So like it looks 3D. It's actually like a flat image currently. But if you're doing a poster, like if you're doing a flat Instagram post or something like that, you don't need those elements. So I think it's a lot to do with what is your use case? What are you trying to achieve? Like how do we kind of work around that? like Leo, one of our most popular tools with Leo is the upscaler. It's, I think, probably best in industry. And it's this ability to kind of upscale imagery to a really, really high quality. And so say you spend, your day working on a whole suite of different images, and there you get your final output that is a, just a fine image. We then take it into the upscaler, and all of a sudden you have this incredibly high resolution, either photograph or illustration or, whatever it is, to the point that indiscernible sense, like that's what I'm getting to. Like, I can't believe that every day I can have aha moments. Yesterday I had an aha moment where I was putting this character consistency. It was this character that I was working on last week. And I put her in this photo shoot on this mountain, and I was like, the wind's blowing in her hair, and she's, looking this expression. And I was like, how is this? What is happening?
Yeah.
Like, it's
I'm sitting still at a desk.
I know, right?
Crazy.
And like, as a kid, as a creative kid, you have this imagination of like, if only people could see my dreams, if only people could see what's in my mind. And now I sit here and take what's out of my mind and give it to people and print it, and ta-da, it's on a wall. Like, the workflow to me is the comparative to when photography came about, I think. Like, it's that sense of, oh my God, the game has changed. And what photography did was expanded an entire new industry in the sense of like social media. God, social media doesn't work doing oil paintings, I don't think. So, like, it's just a shift. And the opportunities are going to be, we can't even imagine. Like, I do a lot of like futurist envisioning, like a lot of future planning, and it's just like you get so far, and then it's kind of like, well, I don't know if we can see beyond that, to be honest. Like, at that point, and I would just encourage everybody to give it a play, because that's the only way that you're really gonna learn and see the business opportunities as well. Like, we even just like little things. Like, we have so we also do an API, and what I mean by that is if you have a small business, you can actually like plug into Leonardo's functionality to then bring generative AI. Oh, are you? Oh my God, cool. Oh my God, awesome. And so we have like API clients who do so many different things. Like, there is someone that does like e-learning, and being able to like visualize stuff for e-learning is really, really, really helpful, because a lot of people are visual learners.
Yes.
And then we have like people who are filmmakers, and they use it for VFX. So being able to add like VFX stuff, which typically have been really quite hard, but using Leo, we're able to create, that asset that you then combine with your existing, video production workflow. But you've got this additional asset, which makes it so much easier. And I mean, honestly, I could go on and on. We've got like interactive storytelling API clients. So like people who tell stories and being able to generate, the next scene as it kind of unfolds, which is just such a beautiful way of leaning into the capabilities of generative tooling. And I can go on for literally hours about all of the amazing use cases, but it's just this thing of, I would say, like, think about your business and where are you, like, what are you, like, are you buying things? Like, where are you putting it? Like, and how can you be doing it? And beyond that, it's like, where are you trying to tell people stories? Like, where are you trying to connect with your audience? And a lot of the time, social media is massive for businesses. It's like email marketing headers, pamphlets, banners and stuff, like things that aren't particularly overwhelmingly exciting, but are very, very, very important for having high
application
content. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you. So we've been, for the past probably, and actually since January, my team has been working on a content creation and distribution process that uses the podcast as kind of like the seed of that context for all of the other Gen AI tools that come in. And how we're using Leonardo is they are creating blog posts based on the content. And I think they're shooting me a video walkthrough of everything right now, actually. I think what they're doing is they're now running that through a prompt that's specifically for the image generation. And they're sending that through, and then they're pulling. So we are telling a story. The images that are coming back, they're not just like, oh, cool image. It's an image that was, because of a prompt that we use, extracted the appropriate language from a blog post. So now we've got like killer images, unique, on brand from a blog post. Pretty cool. And we're using the API for that. So it's pretty cool stuff.
Hell yeah. Oh, awesome. That's so good to hear.
Yeah, we do a lot of, but we tinker.
Like, see, tinkerers. I love it. Tinkerers, hackers, like what else can you figure out? But it's funny that you say that, because we even use AI in our internal teams. Like I saw a post today, we had like one of our designers had a series of images and we weren't sure which was going to be like the header. And she got ChatGPT to be like, hey, here is the series of images according to you, and click results or whatever, like which is the best image out of this suite. And like Jen was able to be like, yo, this one's going to be the highest click rate because of these reasons. And so we're like, awesome, thanks for that. And, picked that one out of a suite of images. Like that, like, the strategy and like the strategist in me is just like, holy moly, like it's phenomenal, because we have the capabilities to do, like so many options, like years ago. I mean, like university days, I don't know, let's say 2012 or something like that. I remember seeing a car company show me that how they use Gen AI, or they would use like very early days Gen to generate a series of like car designs of how like which had the best like, with physics of wind and all this stuff. Anyway,
low drag.
It's like yes. It was like an engineering thing of like using the software. And I sat there and was like, oh my God, imagine having this exponential capability with your process. And that was, to me, I think it must have been like, I don't know, Lexus or Honda or whatever, like a car company, someone who has a lot of money to be able to invest in their engineering teams. And I was very jealous of that capability. And now, a decade later, and it's just sitting on my computer and I just, play around with it. And all of a sudden I have an entire suite. It's just never ending with the possibilities and the use cases. And we even like if somebody wants like a very fun intro to the tool, like we have a thing called live or real-time canvas. And it's pretty much like if you imagine a kid with an iPad, you can be the kid if you want. It can be you, it can be any of us. Sitting there with an iPad and just doodling, like even like we used to doodle in Paint back in the day. And the AI can like interpret your doodles and instantly real-time render into imagery that is picture perfect. And so I was doing like a silly little tutorial last week, and I think I was doodling a koala or whatever. And then depending on which model I put onto it, so if I wanted it to be anime, or if I wanted it to be photography or a painting or a ray trace or a 3D render or like a vibrant sketch or a cinematic, like whichever thing I wanted it to be, and it was instantly rendering like these excellent standout things. And then what's even cooler, okay, so I can do that, and then I can save that, upscale it, get it to a nice quality image, and then use that into my image gen. So I can be like, okay, thanks, I've got my particular koala, which is now like the mascot for my, I don't know, Vegemite business. Who knows? This is very Australian, sorry. And then be able to take that and build an entire series of images and photography and branded content and t-shirts and whatever it is that I want that day, built off that. So the workflow is like, usually as a designer, I would sit there at my desk, at my table, sketch on paper, and then take it into, I don't know, probably like Illustrator or whatever the tools which require a lot of learning. Whereas now I can doodle directly in platform and use directly in platform into my suite of content.
We're underutilizing the functionalities. I can tell you that this call has really. It was one of those categories you can't do it all. And like music, it was interesting. I played with it. I made my kids a couple songs, and it's fun, but I'm not going to be in there regularly.
Yeah.
I thought the same thing with the image stuff. I've had a Midjourney account forever. DALL-E was free. I was included in GPT Plus, and I just didn't use it. I mean, I'm still paying, I don't know, $10, $20 a month, whatever, for Midjourney. And I just don't use it because I just didn't see the application. But unintentionally or intentionally, you have I'm interested to go in there. Certainly it'll be cool to see what creative, like, hey, wait a minute, maybe I am creative kind of experience I have. However, the the ability, because I got a 25-year background in marketing, and I
You're gonna
know,
love this. Oh my God.
yes, I'm seeing that now, and I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I need to be more intentional with the use of the image Gen AI. So for anybody listening, the advice that Jessie gave earlier about giving your employees some time to learn the tools, do the same with yourself.
Oh yeah.
Right? Because a couple of things. One, you're now going to have a new tool in your toolkit, but on top of that, you now can go into your own team or your business or whatever, your clients' businesses, and you, from having spent that afternoon having your aha moment, you're now a bit of a subject matter expert, right? You're the perception in the marketplace is that you are now, your economic viability has improved because of the afternoon you spent on Leo getting used to the tools. So for somebody that wants to do that, what, obviously Leonardo.ai, but is there any particular, like, what would be first steps for somebody that was going to be trying it out this afternoon after this podcast episode?
Yeah, cool. So I do it the way I teach it in university. So I would start with real-time canvas, or like, so Leonardo, there's like a few, like real-time canvas is just a good way of being like, I'm going to have a doodle and have that instant kind of like adrenaline hit of being like,
nice.
Oh my God,
yeah.
It's making what I want. And so like start with your little sketch, do something silly, and then play with the different models. So like the ray trace, the illustration, the sketch, like just so you get an idea of when the system knows what it is that you want, it will give you what you want. And if you're getting not very good images, it's because you're probably not telling it the right things, or you're not using it correctly. Like the results are phenomenal when it works, when you can articulate things correctly. So I would say probably start there, and then going into the image generation area. Like image generation is where is like our bread and butter. I mean, we also do like motion. I haven't got into all our other features because there's a zillion, but we're able to do motion as well. But let's just keep it simple for today. Yeah, so you would type in a prompt, and I think when you get into prompt writing, using AI to write prompts is really helpful. It's a feature that we're going to be rolling out publicly, I think, soon. I am obsessed with it, so I think it might only be available to me right now. But this improved prompt, so I will write like a simple dodgy prompt. I don't know, whatever, like
in Leonardo.
Yeah, in Leonardo. So directly into the prompt bar. So like a woman.
It's got a prompt improver that's coming.
Yeah, Chris.
Very cool.
Game changer. I will write maybe like 10 words that aren't very good. Oh, here we go. Okay, type of prompt. A woman hiker on a mountainside photography. I don't know. This is my excellent morning brain. And oops. And all of a sudden, if I press improve my prompt, I'm going to get this. So it goes from a woman hiker on a mountainside photo to a resilient, adventurous woman stands proudly on a rugged mountainside, her gaze fixed at the vast horizon ahead. The photo captures her mid-hike with windswept hair and a determined expression. This stunning photograph showcases the beauty of nature and the spirit of exploration. The vibrant colors and sharp details bring the scene to life, making it a truly captivating image that conveys a sense of freedom and awe.
Much better picture, I'm sure.
I think that's a bit more detailed than a woman stands on a mountain.
Yeah.
And so so I think tools like that is really helpful. But beyond
100%.
that, like those are like the beginning entry points. It's for me when you get into the elements of style reference, of content reference, depth to image, edge to image, pose to image. Like these are the phenomenal tools which are, to me, the step up of people who can actually use Gen AI tools. Because if I'm doing a content reference, so say there's like, I don't know, a scene of people playing basketball or something like that, I can use as a content reference to then be like, okay, I also want to make a scene with a basketball, but I want it to be particularly like in this layout, or the pose thing's really helpful. So like, if you are doing a clothing shoot or something, like I could get somebody in my office. It could be you. You could be standing in front of me. I can take a photo of the model, with her hands behind her head or whatever pose you want, and
that's
use
my pose.
It's a beautiful pose. It's stylish, and use that pose to then put your model or like your character into that same position. Phenomenal. We've got edge to image. So if you wanted to have, like, say you've got your brand or your title, like say the word Leonardo. I could then do Leonardo in a black font, just like whatever my tool is to have Leonardo in a font, and then take it in and do edge to image. And all of a sudden, I've got picture perfect Leonardo text used as to create a scene. So it could be like graffiti on a wall, or it could be I made a silly thing for someone on a birthday cake the other day, like happy birthday, Chris. And it's I've made, I've just got the black and white text, but instantly I've now got it written on top of a cake in the exact same font, exact same outline. And that was simply by using like an edge to image reference thing. And like again, I can go on and on and on and on and on and on about the features.
This has been great. I was hoping that this would happen. So how this got started was, I don't know. I think maybe Matt might have introduced me to, for some reason I reached out.
Yeah.
And
cool.
I had a call with somebody from your team.
Yeah.
And then I mentioned the podcast, and I thought this was going to be, okay, Jessie, tell me how I can use, art in my business. I'm not that guy. However, you've made like the way that this conversation has gone, it's made it much more accessible to somebody who, like, I'm a businessman. I'm not, art is for other people, but now I'm very, that's been challenged. And so thank you for doing that. So listen, I would like for people to be able to follow what you're doing and what Leonardo is doing. Are there specific places online where you're showcasing some of these aha moments that you're having?
Yeah, so that's something that we're really keen to push out. I think we're going to be starting doing monthly demos where I actually help like run through the platform and to be able to upskill the community, because it's like there's new stuff comes out every single week. So it's like, okay, well, let's make sure we bring everybody along with these developments. I'm quite active on LinkedIn, and Leonardo is also quite active on LinkedIn. Obviously, our Discord is the place to be if you're a Discord person. But again, I'm aware that we've got 3 million people.
What?
It's a lot. I know. It's a global community of incredible creators. And what's cool about our Discord community specifically is I'd say like they're predominantly early adopters, and like they are people who have been at the front of this AI wave from the get-go. They have seen it all. They get it all. So it's a really great community to be a part of and see what like our front runners and what they're doing. For the rest of the populace, I'm sure again, there's not really that many marketing people who want to jump on a Discord. I would say our LinkedIn is definitely a place to be for that. We also have Twitter, so Leonardo.ai across all of those. I speak a lot because I do really love engaging with the community. So my LinkedIn is just Jessie Hughes at Leonardo.ai.
Well, very cool.
Hopefully we'll get to be doing these video demos. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think the repositioning in the head I would have is this sense of it's a content creation suite. So whatever content you have as a business, how do we touch that content to have story and beauty and narrative and create compelling, specific niche content for your business needs?
Yeah. And it takes it even a little bit further. If you're going to be a generative AI expert, but you're siloing off, well, I create this type of content and I don't really know anything about that. I think that would be a mistake. And if you were going to try something, I would recommend, obviously, Leonardo.ai, just because of the ease of use. I'm telling you, I haven't tried every image generation tool out there, but the ones that I have, it was like, nah, that's why I don't use them, right? However, but with Leonardo and with all the examples that you've shared and the stuff that you guys are doing, it's a different category. Very cool. Thank you so much for sharing all this with us, Jessie. And
you're so welcome.
So Leonardo.ai, and once they get there, just dive in.
Yeah,
let's follow Jessie's instructions.
Yeah, make an account, jump on in, play in the tools. I reckon go start with real-time canvas and then go into image generation. Yep. Get your employees to spend a day. If you don't want to give it a week, give them a day. I mean a full day, because you do have to really start to learn. You have to make mistakes to learn how to use these tools. So invest in a long-term, incredible upskilling of your workforce.
It's great advice. All right, Jessie, thank you so much. All right, guys, we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for tuning in to Using AI at Work. Don't forget to subscribe for more conversations about how to use AI at work. And a special thank you to our sponsor, Chief AI Officer, for empowering businesses with AI education and training. Visit their website for a free AI readiness assessment and AI strategy guide to help you get started using AI at work. That's www.chiefaiofficer.com. Special thanks to our producer, Evan DeSaulnier, for making this episode possible. Follow us on Twitter at the handle Using AI at Work, and visit www.usingaiatwork.com for free resources to help you harness AI in your role.